Hello, everyone. Welcome to the GLORIO Chat, the best anime podcast on the internet. Now, I know this is an anime podcast, but we are recording on Super Bowl day, which here in the United States is the holiest day on the calendar for many people.
Finally, the day when the final blow will be dealt and Drake will be sacrificed to the outer gods.
Yeah, you know what? Maybe this is anime related because I'd like to shout out the greatest anime villain of all time, Kendrick Lamar, one more time.
Yes, I mean, you call it the Super Bowl. I call it, yes, the Drake Memorial Concert held by Kendrick Lamar that happens to feature football.
Yeah. I think, G, we were just talking like myself. You were probably also finding a way to watch the Super Bowl for free.
Yes,
and they had another recurring theme on this podcast seems to be weird streaming services we've been digging up lately. And
yes,
apparently,
look,
the biggest feather in the cap of streaming service Tubi is the fact that you can watch the Super Bowl for free on it today. So. No credit card required.
Tubi's whole thing that they have like short content.
No, I feel like Tubi's whole thing is that they just have like utterly deranged media and also a bunch of old kung fu movies.
Whatever the hell they
can
get rights to,
right?
Yeah.
Because it is literally just what Tubi is just like. Yeah, it's the dumping grounds for whatever like HBO, Apple, and like Netflix don't want.
I'm surprised they didn't get Girls Band Cry or Thunderbolt Fantasy.
Yes, like Girls Band Cry to sort of illustrate the Venn diagram here. Girls Band Cry is the most Tubi coded anime.
That should have been on there when it was popping up on like the Fandango site and all that stuff. So yes, we got to wrap this up so we can watch the halftime show. But
yes,
I bet they're going to release Thunderbolt Fantasy Season 4, and you have to like send in a letter so they can send you the discs.
Well, it is now. They did finally get it on Crunchyroll like last week or something. Yes, but it was not there for a while. But yeah, we do have some actual anime to talk about somehow still. As we've been lamenting, this season has been a bit slow for our personal tastes, but we'll have some others. We'll have a couple. We have a couple shows hanging on, and we've got some other things to talk about for sure. So before we dive into it, let's introduce everybody. I'm Gel. I'm joined by Iro.
I'm still here. I'm not dead yet.
Iro's still with us. Iro, I'm very proud of you. That you've finally played Dungeon Encounters. I just want to use that in since the last time we've been on the podcast.
Yes, and my continuing foray into the dungeon. I've opened up the dungeon, all of the dungeons. Opened up the dungeon.
At our current rate of dropping shows, we might have to talk about some of those games.
Dude, we should just do an entire podcast about Kowloon High School Chronicle.
Special episode, Dungeon Crawler Sicko episode. But yes,
I told you all, man. I told you all like 10 years ago when I played Persona Q, and you guys were all like, "Oh, no, we don't like dungeon crawlers. They're for sickos."
Now,
I told you, bro.
Hold on. Persona Q. Okay, I still don't like dungeon crawlers, but the actual biggest problem with Persona Q is the like complete Flanderization of the entire cast.
Yes, it's a Persona spin-off. What do you want?
I feel like literally every line that comes out of Kanji's mouth in Persona Q is either I'm dumb or I'm gay.
Yeah. Well, the other thing is Persona Q is basically a Train Odyssey, right? Which I'm currently playing. And I have not been blown away by a Train Odyssey. I'll say that much. So I don't know.
Well, you're not down with killing the wood people?
No, even putting aside, go to my website, gels.website, to go read more about my Train Odyssey.
What about Galeria, the Moon Labyrinth, or whatever it was called?
Yes, that I might start doing a new Game of the Year post for that. I've convinced enough people. I've convinced enough people to play Dungeon Encounters. I might switch over to the Labyrinth of Galeria, the Moon Society, now available on PSN, Switch, and Steam.
Anyways, now we're auto-fillating. Check out Blue Mondays, a new podcast about Eureka 7, and also my bank account number is...
Yes.
While we're on the topic of Blue Mondays, I'm going to say something that you guys are going to get very mad about and then move on. Secret Base on Anohana was better. All right, let's keep moving. So, we're joined by G.
Sorry, Jel. This is the equivalent of walking in, shitting on the floor, and then walking out.
I am stud locked, man. That is a wake up super of a statement. My goodness, man, you are lucky. It's just me here. I feel look, Zig and I don't agree on everything, but I feel like a statement like that. It's like, I mean, at that point, it's like, all right, Zig, I'll buy you a plane ticket. We're flying to New York. We're gonna beat Gel with sticks. Oh man!
Well, if you want to hear more about that, tune into Blue Mondays next week when episode
3 guest starring Gel. We shall not be talking about episode 5 and 6.
I'll pop on for like the first 5 minutes, and we can debate this. Yeah.
All right. Well, my actual bit, Gel. Before you said that immensely offensive thing to me. All right, this is your last chance to bet. As of right now, it is 4:15 p.m. Eastern time. We are hours away from the halftime show.
Yep.
Give me your prediction. Does Kendrick actually sing "Not Like Us" fully unedited?
No,
definitely not unedited. But
he's gonna censor Jabroni.
And I think, basically Super Bowl shows now are like medleys, so they don't do the whole songs. So I think we'll definitely get a portion. I hope it's the A minor, so we can hear a billion. I mean, that's
really the most important part, right? Is does he sing A minor at the halftime show?
Like I'm sure they'll find some way to blend into that part of the verse. They say the A minor, and he gets a "Not Like Us" in, and then we go to the next song.
Yeah. And then he goes mustard.
Yeah, I think the highest percentage chance of anything happening is him yelling mustard.
Probably. I will say there is a precedent for Kendrick getting away with this, where he's done a couple of live shows where he doesn't. He
simply holds the mic out to the audience,
and then he holds the mic out.
Let the audience. Yes, we could get that for sure. Yes.
He himself does not say A minor. He lets the audience take care of that.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Drake can't sue you for that. But anyway.
Nope. Also, everyone in this discourse, everyone seems to forget that he also calls Drake literally a pedophile on that song.
Yes.
Yes. He says, "I heard you like him young. You better stay away from Cell Block 1.
Yes. So good. Yeah, that's
it's
my
just the gift that keeps on giving.
I think we will get a portion of "Not Like Us," and yes, Kendrick will not, obviously not say certain words that you can't say on broadcast television, but
fine.
Yes, he could. They can't mute the crowd.
You know what? That's a very good way of looking at it.
They can't mute the crowd. So anyway, we're also joined by Aqua.
I'm just here to talk about Eureka 7. What's going on?
This is wrong podcast. Yes, but
damn. Well, sorry.
Next time, next week. But anyway,
I'll have to guess a third episode in a row so I can talk about how much I want Talho to bully me.
Mm-hmm.
No, that was pretty obvious from the previous episode.
just in case it wasn't clear.
Have you watched episode 5 yet?
Maybe.
Because let me tell you.
Maybe I should watch Eureka 7. Now that you're
should watch Reconquista in G first.
All right. So is there a more problematic woman in?
Oh no, probably not.
Okay.
Not. Look, Tomino is the master of problematic women. I would say G-Reco is a bit sparse in that department compared to most Tomino shows.
I mean, there's
depends on whether you call developmentally disabled problematic.
She gets better.
She got better, so
yeah.
God, I love that. I love not knowing anything about G-Reco, and everything you guys say just sounds absolutely insane out of context. So anyway,
we were just as baffled as you when it happened.
Yeah, maybe it wouldn't make any more sense with context. I don't know, but let's try and talk about some currently airing anime, I guess. So we haven't talked about in a while Dragon Ball Daima, which was started last season, but is still airing this season. And now that we're past all of the new shows and dropped a whole bunch of things, maybe it's time to check back in.
Check back in as it enters its final stretch.
Yes. So
I propose we continue our boycott of this show until we get our bill.
Yeah. For GLORIO, right?
Yep. God, yes, GLORIO.
Our namesake.
Well, don't worry. GLORIO hasn't been relevant in Daima for like 7 episodes.
Yeah.
Yes, which considering the length of Daima is basically half that show's run.
Yeah.
It's all about weird. It's only new villain. What is
it's only going to be like 20
or something?
It's only going to be like 20 episodes or something. They said.
Yes, it's a shorter run. I suspect it was always going to be this way, even in a world where Toriyama doesn't pass away. I think it seems like the idea was always for Daima to be sort of a mini series with the option to expand. I think.
I mean, it looked more like a My Hero Academia than it looked like a forever shonen show, right?
Definitely not another Super, that's for sure.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, I get the impression perhaps things have not changed much since we last talked about it.
Not terribly.
It's Dragon Ball. Things have not changed since 1985.
Yeah, kind of.
True.
It's fair.
And I guess the thing, it's like the thing you can kind of give to Daima, I would say, is we've talked about this before, but how in many ways Daima feels like it, like in some regards, the most honest expression of Toriyama's Dragon Ball. It's goofy, it's comical, it's over the top, and like there are ass beatings to be handed out, but the stakes by and large are like not particularly grand in Daima. Even here in the last few episodes where long story short, right, the story has been that Goku and the gang are trying to get the 3 underworld Dragon Balls to make themselves adults again. And through a series of hijinks, the joke villain got his hands on otherworldly godly power, and has now in classic Dragon Ball fashion, he got bigger.
Yep.
And so now all the heroes and maybe even some of the former villains have to team up to take down Goma the Demon King. And I mean, look, man, it's Dragon Ball. Like, I don't even do you really need a plot summary from me? Like, it's
right. It's like they start glowing, they start punching, they start throwing the energy blasts.
The thing that Iro and I did note, however, is that Daima is the most DBZ movie coded show.
God, yes,
we've watched,
especially at once that everybody gets up to start fighting the big guy and punch him.
Is that complimentary or derogatory?
It is simply a statement of fact.
A little bit of both.
Yes.
It is what it is.
Yeah. There's an extended, nicely animated sequence of everybody doing their anime OP attack on the main villain as he's deflecting their blows. It's very this is the B-roll footage you would cut out to put together the American broadcast intro to Dragon Ball Daima.
The Toonami bumper of everybody's punching Broly and he's not moving.
Yeah, exactly. While Peter Cullen is narrating.
Uh-huh.
Which is all to say that I don't know if Daima's great, but also say what you will, but I don't know if there's another anime or maybe even piece of fiction period in all of human history that is as deeply embedded in the foundation of my soul as Dragon Balls.
Yeah. It's unlocking old parts of your brain that haven't been used in a while, right?
Look, man, we were watching
Goku
the latest
is
episode.
He's double ascended now.
Yes, he goes Super Saiyan 3. I quote Krillin saying, "What does that mean? He's double ascended?" And then Iro immediately follows up with Babidi's line of, "Oh, so you've changed your hair."
Yeah. Change your hair, so what? Just, yes, it's all of these lines, all of these things in Dragon Ball are just, yes, part foundational, and so I can't hate Daima. Which is not to say that I feel like I should hate it or anything. It's totally fine, but
Right.
You guys are part of the problem, man.
Whoa.
Dragon Ball can get away with this because this is Dragon Ball.
Because it's Dragon Ball, yeah.
Only Dragon Ball is allowed to start out nostalgia bait slop.
Look,
yes,
it's good if the things I like do it.
Yeah.
Hold on. I have always been on record. You can go back to previous podcasts. I say this in the podcast where we talk about Toriyama's death. I have always made it clear. I think Toriyama is a hack. Or, my apologies, Toriyama was a hack. And that's fine, you know?
Right. Yeah, I mean, we've had a lot of Dragon Ball since the end of Dragon Ball Z, and most of it is garbage, so this is something, I don't know, a little bit different maybe, but
I think the way, there's a little bit of the Sandland effect here of Daima is definitely enjoying the post-mortem Toriyama buff, but I also think genuinely Daima is a very fun celebration of Dragon Ball, like Dragon Ball in its whole capacity.
Mm-hmm.
Dragon Ball Z,
that's it.
The only other two Dragon Ball series that were ever created.
Yeah, exactly. The only two Dragon Ball series that were ever made. And it's a wonderful celebration of those sensibilities of who Toriyama was as a creator, as a writer. And so it is a lot of fun. Is it generic as hell? Yes. Is it super predictable? Of course. But look, man,
shot that dog with a Kamehameha.
Piccolo charged up a special beam cannon in the latest episode, and me and Iro clapped like seals and look, it's the special beam cannon.
Look, Piccolo doing something.
Piccolo's doing something.
So
did they get the 3 Dragon Balls yet? Because they're getting close to the end, right?
Technically, I mean they're all in one place. Just we're busy fighting the Demon King. Right.
I mean,
okay.
Arrow, here's my guess. I assume it's going to be a thing of oh no, we can't beat the Demon King, so we're gonna have to use the Dragon Balls to make a wish, and that's how in this theoretical world.
Because will this be the one time that they are allowed to ask the dragon just make the bad guy go away or stop the bad guy? Because every other time. The dragon's always well, I can't do that. They're too strong.
I don't know if it's necessarily that.
Man,
as maybe is it do we wish for Goku and Vegeta to become adults so they can fuse and become Gogeta or something like that, right? Because
I think they set up the like fusion bugs earlier, right?
They did do that. Yes.
So I think we will get Kid fusion.
Sure, I could see that. I just think I figured there's gonna be something that necessitates a premature usage of the Dragon Balls, so that everybody stays as kids, so that you can keep milking the premise,
right? So you can make more, yeah. And
exactly.
Then it's oh no, we're just kids. Oh well, we still have X months until the Earth Dragon Balls recharge or whatever.
Exactly, right.
Sure, I could see that. It's
Yeah. Alternatively, Oolong shows up at the last second and wishes for panties.
Where's Gohan? Gohan's still MIA.
Oh yes, Gohan nowhere to be seen in Daima. It's hilarious.
Oh yeah, he hasn't appeared at all. Great.
I mean,
I have never
not at all.
I have never seen a character so thoroughly disrespected as Gohan. It's really astounding.
He finally got what he wanted and doesn't have to participate in any of this nonsense.
Yeah.
Right.
Just
Can't make him a kid again. He's already been a kid.
boom. I know. Just have SSJ2 Gohan Circus Cell show up.
But it's like, also, what if, like, Toriyama wouldn't fucking do it, but, like, what if, like, yeah, it's like, oh, they became kids again, and we got based Gohan back, you know? Like, Cell Games Gohan, you know?
Mhm.
That'll never happen, unfortunately.
Alas.
But,
Yeah, no,
all right,
it's fun. I'm having a good
Well,
time.
it's something. A good old reliable.
Yep. He's going SSJ3. He's gonna fight the bad guy. What else is there to say?
Yeah. All right. Well, let's go from something that's perhaps predictable and onto something perhaps less predictable.
I don't know, I feel like Beastars is actually very reliable.
Predictable in its unpredictability.
Predictable and reliable are two different things.
Mm.
But yes, let's talk about Beastars Season 3. And reminder, yes, these episodes have been out for a long time now, but we've been watching them at normal pace. So we are up to episodes 7 and 8 for the purpose of this episode. Episode 7 has some of the most disturbing things I've seen in an anime in a very long time.
God, yes.
I don't know what you're talking about. You know, don't you go to the pedophile fair that is hosted every week in broad daylight? Where you can buy live children?
Well, we go to
pedophile fair.
We get the first date with Legoshi and Haru in a very long time.
Yes.
And we'll just cut to it. I mean, this eventually leads to Haru insisting that they go to the black market.
Yes.
And man, like, okay, so look, it's already kind of messed up that, you know, she's going to this market with, like, you know, hocks of meat hanging and sausages and things hanging off stalls and all that, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's kind of like, you know, if I'm going to eat a steak, I'm not thinking about how it's a cow, right? Like, because it just looks like it looks like a steak. It doesn't look like a cow,
yes,
right?
And
there's a level of detachment from it.
Yes, and of course, the shop that Legoshi and Haru run into is like just selling whole rabbits, you know, like just there in glass displays, dressed
wearing clothes,
in funeral clothes, like
yeah,
and just on ice, laying down.
It's
It's
so
okay,
deranged.
it's okay, man. These rabbits died of natural causes. I have a deal with like a funeral undertaker.
Yeah,
it's completely legit, guys.
It's so deranged, but I love it. Like this is like Beastars at its finest. Like this is like at its most, because like Beastars, I think that the thing that we've always loved about Beastars is its like adamant refusal to be like neatly categorized into a certain subsect of like animal people metaphor fiction, right?
Mhm.
Like we always talk about like, oh yeah, like what metaphor are your animal people? And the thing that like Paru Itagaki has always done so well with Beastars is like this scene is like great and wonderful and disturbing and horrible because like it is just like taking its animal society like premise to its like most like upsetting bizarre conclusion.
Right. I mean, that's the thing, right? Beastars has always been not necessarily about like what we usually think about when we think about animal people, as in like a direct metaphor for human issues. And it's more like, what if animals had like human level intelligence and lived in a human level society, but were at their very core still animals? Like,
right. Like,
yeah, as it introduces more aspects, it's just like less and less applicable or allegorical for actual society.
I mean, and also less and less applicable to actual animals. Like,
yeah,
it just
Right.
right. Premise, and it's just rockets off into space.
But it's interesting because like a lot of like the language and stuff they use is things that we would use for real life issues, but I think it does still have some allegories here and there, but yes, broadly speaking, it becomes its like own weird thing, which is fascinating.
Because they do use these loaded terms like segregation or discrimination, right?
Right.
Like,
you know, I think it was the last block of episodes where Haru's other rabbit friend like speaks up against somebody making jokes about, you know, species
right.
couples and stuff like that, right? Like there's some, but that's what makes it fascinating is like, okay, that doesn't, if you think too hard about it, it doesn't really apply to like real world stuff, but like the language and stuff that they use is like
right. I mean, it can be that much of a metaphor because, as well established by this season, Paru Itagaki does not know what gay people are.
I mean, so like this is the thing that I think like continues to keep Beastars interesting, right? Because like, so obviously like we're talking about like, yes, the like societal level like metaphorical stuff, but also like how a lot of this is still, you know, closely centered around Legoshi and Haru's relationship, right? And how all these plot lines are kind of meant to be different like reflections of that core like through line. You know, I mean, we talk about like Haru's other rabbit friend, right? And how like, you know, in some ways, right, again, whether allegorical or not, she is kind of the like meant to represent the like, you know, look, the term virtue signaling has been completely poisoned by like the worst types of people, but that is kind of what Haru's rabbit friend is doing, right? Like she's like, look how open-minded and progressive I am. I'm dating a lion, you know? And like kind of like showing that like obviously that like, you know, it's like interspecies relationships should be a thing that are not like condemned or discriminated against, but also still recognizing that in this sort of animalistic society, that to treat something like that so trivially, like to treat it as just a like a trendy thing to do, and like the ways that contrast against like Haru and Legoshi's own like very sincere attempts at making it work, I think continue to be interesting. You know, I mean, look, I think we can all agree Legoshi gets a little up in his own feelings too much. You know, his all I'll never, you know, I can't kiss you, Haru, not until my soul is pure.
To be fair,
like
to be fair, her asking him to kiss her in the dead rabbit store was a little weird.
What if we kissed in the dead rabbit store?
Look, it wouldn't like I feel like it wouldn't have gotten to that point.
Yes.
Legoshi had just kissed her in a normal place.
Yes,
you know,
that is a valid. A valid.
Like in some ways, I feel like Haru lashing out because she's like, "I'm going to like just put us in the most extreme situation possible because clearly that is the only way to motivate you to do anything."
Yeah. Well,
and then like speaking of like, yes, the interspecies relationship thing kind of comes up because in then episode 8, we kind of get the reveal, or not the reveal, I guess it is kind of the reveal, the
direct acknowledgement, right?
Yes, of Melon, the serial killer who has been targeting herbivores and is taken over the Shishigumi and is, you know, putting, you know, chemicals in the water to turn the frogs gay. Melon, who is himself mixed race, right? You know, sort of, again, like if Riz the bear was meant to be like a sort of reflection of like Legoshi, like a twisted reflection of Legoshi's own like messianic complex about being a carnivore, like trying to become friends with herbivores. You could say that Melon is like the least subtle metaphor in the world for like, this could be you, Legoshi, you know, because as we also learn in these episodes that Legoshi himself is also mixed race, right? He is
part Komodo,
part
Komodo dragon.
Yeah. Aqua, is this what you're talking about when you're saying this also isn't how real animals work?
Yes, I mean,
yeah, right.
Yeah.
As far as I know, I mean, you have like ligers and zeezels, but otherwise,
you're not crossing gazelles and you know, what was it with Melon, or I don't remember what he was mixed with, but
he's like he's like a gazelle and a cheetah or something.
It's unclear, I think
it's meant to be unclear right now, but they do elaborate on it later. Yes,
right.
Yeah, it's just funny because like, I never even thought about that at the beginning of the series. Like they were, you know, there were interspecies relationships and things, but I just assumed that they could not be reproductive, but apparently they can. So that's
look, man, this is Paru Itagaki we're talking about. She's like, no, I'm gonna make you think about the logistics of this.
Yeah,
I mean, if you're reading a Paru Itagaki manga and you're not considering the logistics of animal fucking, you're doing something wrong.
then I guess yes, I have failed. But
God.
yeah. So episode 8, yeah, we get Melon. We get rumors going around about Yafua's death, which are
Greatly
not true.
exaggerated.
Greatly exaggerated. Although
That's
he is
another
not,
thing he has in common with Batman.
he is not in great shape at the moment and has to take on a protege here to I guess help him. So I guess this is how Lugosi gets mixed up in all this. But yeah,
Dude needs to get rid of his martyr complex, man. Like,
yeah.
here's this like horse who wears a wife beater and who hates your grandfather and who is like literally a like racist, fascist animal, like herbivore supremacist,
gay,
and he's
racist
like,
grandpa.
yeah, and he's like, "Yo, help me out, even though I hate you." And Lugosi's like, "Oh, I guess I should." Like,
For the good of all herbivores everywhere.
yeah.
I mean, this has always kind of been the thing about Lugosi, right? Is like, yes, he is like again. This is why this is like why the metaphors don't apply, right? Because like there's this fascinating mix of like almost like savior complex and like it's not white guilt, but like something akin to that.
Right.
Like
I mean, the
Lugosi.
thing is like
Like
Beastars is very much about like what is your nature, right?
Mhm.
Like, is it in Lugosi's nature to be a hunter? Is it in Luis's nature to be the hunted? Like both of these characters are like defined by their desire to
Right.
break free from what is in their nature. And I mean that makes the animal aspect so interesting, right? Because a criticism that is often given to animals as a metaphor for people stories is that like they are not a direct metaphor, because like for predators, hunting and eating smaller animals is their nature. Like they need to do it to
Right.
survive.
Right. They cannot process other types of food.
Right. So you cannot like compare this to anything humans do, because humans do have free will and like the ability to go beyond their nature, as just like the basic
We have
basic
frontal
example.
lobes.
Like like, and we can oh yeah, technically we are carnivores, but we can survive on a vegetarian diet because of scientific developments and stuff like that.
Sure.
So I mean, kind of, right? And that makes the whole. I mean, I think that is why Beastars exists in the first place. This idea of like we humans can, to a certain extent, defy our nature, but
right.
would that be the case for other animals as well that are, not like humans? I mean, it's interesting because you almost hardly ever see primates in Beastars.
I think
Sure.
that's like almost intentional.
Right,
So,
because
yeah.
the thing is, like, all the animals that you see in Beastars or that have prominent roles in Beastars are animals that are very much defined by their nature, Who are our main characters? Oh, it's a wolf, it's a bunny, it's a deer, it's like a lion, a bear. We
Right.
take the most exemplary versions of the various categories of animals, because that is the animals that like the most cliches are associated with. Wolves eat bunnies. Bunnies
Just have
mate
a lot
a
of
lot.
sex. Yep.
Yeah, deer are like
Are racist.
shitty prey
Deers are
who
racist, yes.
run away all the time.
Uh-huh.
Like, I
Right.
mean, that's the thing is like, and the existence of primates in the Beastars universe would sort of insert a
Maybe,
nuance
yeah.
that the story's not really interested in dealing with, I think.
Right.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, I guess I'm curious for Aqua. You've read the manga, right?
No, I have not.
Okay, so
No.
I guess you and Jill. I guess I'm curious how you guys are feeling about like this adaptation or this story as it is being presented.
I mean, my theory is that every manga, if it takes long enough, will eventually turn into a shonen battle manga. And
Not
Mhm.
wrong.
this is not proving me wrong.
Yes.
It's true.
Lugosi is going to go Super Carnivore Saiyan
yes.
to fight the
Yeah.
Beastars Joker.
Yeah, I mean, I talked about this the last time we talked about Beastars. I don't remember if it was the last episode or the episode before, but well, at this point, I have a pretty good idea of what's going on, but up till now, I feel like there's been a lot of just pieces randomly floating around and story not connecting together. I feel like we're getting a little more of that now, or at least we actually have a main story. I don't know if everything has quite come together yet, but yeah, I think these episodes, particularly 8, felt like it was kind of setting up to, maybe we are going to get to what Aqua's saying, which is more of a Lugosi's going to have to go fight a bunch of people. But yeah, I don't know.
Not really feeling it, or what?
I'm enjoying it. I feel like I'm kind of trying to think back to, because I absolutely loved the first season of Beastars. I thought it was one of the I don't remember if I voted it number 1 that year or not,
Right.
but it was high up there for me. I did like the second season, but I felt like it was starting to get into that mode of like, there sure are a lot of random things happening quickly.
I mean, the thing is, like, in the first season, everything the show does was new, right? And it could, like, tell the story it wanted initially to tell when the idea was brought into the world.
Yeah,
and now they're doing more things with it, but I can understand that it no longer feels as fresh as it did the first time around.
I just think the focus on Lugosi and Haru's relationship as the like heart of the show in season 1 was such a good way to stay focused on the story that they were trying to tell. And up until episode 7, they like have not really been together at all, right?
Yeah.
For the past like 20 something episodes or whatever. And I feel like getting away from that maybe lost something for me on that. I don't know. I'd have to really do a deeper analysis of it.
Yeah.
But
splitting up the
overall,
cast is always a big risk, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
And I'm concerned. We've hyped up this whole concept of what is a Beastar and everything, and I'm concerned. I mean, now we know who the Beastar is, but I feel like that's. I don't know if the payoff. I don't know if we're getting the payoff that we've been built up for on it. Like that's.
Turns out the Beastar is just like an annoying guy you kind of have to pay attention to because he's so powerful. Like,
and yeah, I don't know. I don't know if we're going anywhere that's going to be satisfying. Let's put it that way. Like,
so
I can't see where this ends, and
right.
I don't know. So I have a lot of questions. I guess.
I think these are very fair. I think that these are very fair takes on like where Beastars has been going this season.
Yeah,
I think Aaron and I generally do agree that like Beastars kind of starts to see a bit of a decline like around this part of the story, but I also think like some of this is also just that I don't think the anime has done the best job of adapting the source material, like not necessarily in a like inaccurate way, but more in the classic sense, like just what they have chosen to cut or focus on. We've talked about this before about how like this section of Beastars kind of ending with this latest episode was kind of our collective favorite part of Beastars.
Okay.
Like we have affectionately called it the Beast Complex arc of Beastars, which is a reference to Paru Itagaki's like anthology series that takes place in the Beastars world, where each chapter focuses on a different character who lives in the Beastars world unrelated to the story or to the original Beastars. And the reason we call it that is because like it is a lot of like slice of life stories that sort of, we talked about this last time, that are, as Lugosi, leaves school and joins society, sort of examines like what does it mean to like be, not just a person but like an adult in the society, and like the like nature of like how that changes from the like very like
right, like,
intentionally designed like framework of a school.
right.
And
we have already examined the like a relatively immature views of our existence that exist within the microcosm of school, and now I enter the much more complicated outside society.
right. And
I mean, the thing is,
think-
though.
Mhm.
Go ahead. Sorry.
No, it's okay. I'll just say, yeah. And so as a result, I know we talked about this last time as well, but it's just that, yeah, I think that like the feeling that it's like meandering or there's not a lot of plot here is like in the manga, like it's very clear that's the point. And
Right.
I think here in the anime, because of the choices they have made, it kind of just feels,
Because have they cut a lot of parts, like scenes?
Yes.
Yeah,
they
right?
have, yes.
Yes,
I
'cause,
mean,
like, what you're
actors,
Because what you're saying, like, sounds cool. I think it's kind of two things of, one that probably fits the pacing of a manga better, right?
Yeah.
Right.
And then, and you're generally going to have more time, right, to do those things. And, I guess from the anime side, it's like, you're expecting the anime to be telling a more focused story, I guess.
I mean, that's the
But-
thing, right? Like you only get this many episodes, you know, and you have to make your choices, and you can't cut the main plot because then, like, you do not have anywhere for those characters to go or to be, and maybe like half of the slice of life stuff they're adapting won't make sense because the characters are not at the point where they need to be for that to happen.
I think I said this a lot, like even during season 2 of like they're cutting a lot of things that I really like about the original, but for the purposes of the main story arc has to come to an end in episode 12. Like they're making the cuts that they need to, and it's just as we enter season 3, like the portion of the story where all of these random scenes are kind of the point of appeal. Now, as we're cutting all of them to get to the main story, it's like, well,
and that's
it's
kind of the
losing
thing.
some of the
Like
appeal
right?
to
manga is able to be a bit more meandering and be a bit more up to the whims of the author, whereas an anime adaptation always has to fit within the strict constraints of the core system. You get your 12 episodes, you need to bring your story to a sensible point to end in episode 12. All of that is decided by a production committee that does not care about the source material and that you, as a creative involved, have no power over.
I mean, my point is more that, like, I don't think it, I mean, like, controversial take here, but more like it just should, it sucks that it is this way. It shouldn't be this way, right? Because, like, in an ideal world, because, like, in an ideal world, Lugosi versus Riz is, like, the end of season 3. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like in an ideal world, Beastars has like 5 or 6 seasons, right? Like it's why I have so much love for like the Vinland Saga anime in my heart, because oh shit, they actually took their time to get there. They took 50 episodes instead of like trying to cut it down for size in some
rather
way or form.
They were able to they were able to take their time.
Well, yeah, that's what I mean. Yes,
right.
And so it's like, and that's why I'm more like, yes, it's not.
It's not as much of an indictment on Orange. It's like they're probably
Yeah.
doing the best they can with the amount of episodes
but
they have.
it still sucks that
it still doesn't
this is
make
what
it-
we are
right.
left with.
It
right?
still doesn't make it better. It just
like
it is what
for
it is.
example, like here's the thing: Yafia is never not a ridiculous character, but in the manga, he gets some like viewpoint chapters that kind of illustrate how he has become this
Yeah,
sort
I would
of
love-
like
I would love to get
radicalized
some of that.
vigilante.
Yeah, I would love to
because,
get some
like-
of that context, right?
Yeah, because like there are chapters where like basically, like I'm not just going to give you the play-by-play, but basically like there are, as there always are, right? There are people who are exploited in society in like gray areas that are like difficult to like nail down or like prosecute legally. There are people being exploited whether legally or illegally or in that weird zone of ambiguity that like, basically it's like, oh yeah, it's like the systems that are like simply are not equipped or do not care to address the societal ills because of just the inherent complex nature of society. And Yafia has taken it upon himself to be that bludgeon, to be a simple mallet that just smashes injustice where he sees it. Because, like, in a society so complex, so rife with, like, political machinations and, like, you know, socioeconomic factors, he has taken it upon himself intentionally to be the guy who says, fuck it.
I mean,
I'm going to fix this, you know, in the simplest, most direct, violent manner possible. And there is some legitimate catharsis to be taken from that, because he is the guy that can look at like a smarmy politician or like a shady like businessman and go, what if I just kicked you out of a window?
yes, but that's
I'm a
also
Beastar.
what makes him a fascist. You know, he wants easy solutions to complicated issues. Like,
right. So it's what we're saying, though, I think is in the manga, there's more time to.
Right.
It's not excusing his actions, but
no, of course
but
not. It's
but
just
like
gives him more
pointing out
intentionality.
adding more
how one
complexity
can-
and more
yeah.
and seeing how we got to this point, right? And not
Yeah,
just
right.
that he's, you know, an asshole horse, but like the So yeah,
I mean, that's just a tautology. All horses are
Yeah.
assholes.
right. Second only to dolphins, right? But have we seen
Man.
dolphins in Beastars?
Oh my
Not
god!
yet.
That would be
Just
hilarious.
imagine a dolphin in Beastars, like
Um
with the reputation that dolphins have, and also Paru Itagaki being weird and horny. Like,
well, all right. Yeah. So again, we don't have to keep going over these points over and over again, but it's just like it's the, Orange is probably doing the best they can with the time that they have, and it's just kind of unfortunate we're missing some of it. Overall, though, I mean, even if you just shut your brain off and enjoy the spectacle of Beastars, it's still a very entertaining show. And I don't even think you have to do that. I'm just saying at bare minimum, I'm still enjoying it. It just, I do feel like there's something missing, but it's still good. So, all right. Let's talk about the other old reliable here that we have this season, the Apothecary Diaries season 2.
Yeah.
The Adventures of Cat.
Still trucking.
Anything interesting happen in these last 2 episodes?
Courtly machinations. Yes.
White people?
Yes.
Well, not just white people, the ever elusive white women.
Yes.
White woman. Yeah.
White woman spotted.
White woman spotted.
Yes, the white woman jump scare.
This is getting out of hand.
Yes. But yeah, like the latest episodes have mostly been about the arrival of these foreign dignitaries.
Yes, because the sort of bubbling thing of the past few episodes has been like the foreign convoys have arrived with all of their foreign goods, and due to the we don't want everybody to know the consort's pregnant, so she needs to buy the right things, but also the scented oils are being spread around from the caravan, which may be bad for pregnant people. And are these things connected? ?
What I do like is that this show is adopting a very late 90s, early 2000s structure where you have there's an overarching main plot, but most of the episodes are just random episodic mysteries with 1 or 2 hints to the bigger plot that will come to full fruition in the final 3 episodes of a season.
Well, again, I think as we described it before, it's very procedural. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, it has extreme daytime energy.
But yeah, so basically the latest episodes are not just that these foreign dignitaries are here, but that we need to impress them, right? There's this idea that these foreign dignitaries are here to strengthen relations between fantasy not China and fantasy not
the rest of the world.
The West.
The West, the vague West.
Implication is Greece, potentially.
Yeah.
Greece / Persia / Afghanistan /
well, I mean, yes. I mean,
Sweden, I guess.
Well, here's the thing, right? You have to
the
sort
Balkans,
of let it go because you have your you have your vaguely Aryan-looking women, right? Blonde-haired, blue-eyed, buxom, but also they're wearing like vaguely like middle, like Eurasian look.
Yeah. Like Balkanish clothing.
Yeah, who also know of Diana, the, the Greek god or Roman goddess of the hunt. And anyways, point is like there's this idea that of course they're here under like benevolent auspices, but as always, once you have entered the court, everything is its own. Like everything is a negotiation. Everything is like
is the thing like
quote unquote
that like is the thing that the quote unquote Westerners in this show, is this like how the way we see them? Is this like how Chinese people would look at the quote unquote Chinese people in that show? Where it's just like
highly stylized, like,
or just like a complete mishmash of different eras and cultures.
Sure, yes.
Like how, in Civilization you can play as quote unquote the Native Americans. That is
just blended it all together.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think the point is like obviously the Apothecary Diaries has never been like explicitly historical, right? It does take place explicitly in this sort of like fictional,
legally
fantasy.
Distinct from China.
Yes, right.
Plausible deniability.
Gonzo
exactly. But it is obviously taking a lot of cues from it, right? Because obviously this is a reference to the Silk Road, and so like mostly the episodes are about like trying to figure out how to impress these like really hot white women, and there's all this talk about like we can't like all our Chinese dancers are too short and their tits aren't large enough to impress these white women. Like you have to. Like what are we gonna do? And also
Mama was like, hey, I know women with big mommy milkers.
Yes, but like, do they have the like austere fae-like features befitting of a moon princess or whatever it is, right? It's all in good fun, right? Like it's not a medical mystery, but it still is the classic Apothecary Diaries, like.
Look, all these eunuchs don't know anything about women with big tits, so Mao Mao is gonna have to do this.
It's the mystery solving part, right? It's not a medical mystery, but it's still Mao Mao doing like investigative work to figure out. Okay, this dude who came here 50 years ago claims like he saw a princess who could like summon fairies. What the fuck was he actually talking about? Like what actually happened that day?
Yeah.
And how
my favorite bit
is.
My favorite bit is when Jinchi is like, fetch this woman immediately, and Mao Mao is like, no, this was 50 years ago, dude. She's like, old now.
That just gave me so many vibes of the, like, God. Has anybody here seen The Death of Stalin?
I know of it.
Okay. The Death of Stalin, that the recent movie that is a black comedy portrayal of, as you might have guessed, the death of Stalin. There's a very good bit there where... God, I cannot remember his name. I should know these guys' names. I've studied this history, but long story short, Stalin's immediate successor wants to find... there's an iconic photo of Stalin posing with a little girl, right? And everybody's like, it's like the iconic image of like, paternalistic father of communism's Joseph Stalin. And
get me a picture of the same girl to prove my legitimacy.
Yeah, he's like, find that girl. And everybody's like, dude, that was like, are you stupid? Like, that was like 30 years ago. Also, it's the fucking USSR. She was probably thrown in a gulag. She's probably dead. Anyways, I was reminded of that.
That sounds bad. We should look for the person who's responsible for that and arrest him.
Yes. It's a very good movie. I highly recommend it. But anyways, shades of that when they were like, oh yeah, we'll just find that woman again. Easy.
I mean, if there's one thing you can hold against the Apothecary Diaries is that it's probably a bit too much like, oh, I'm not like other girls and I'm like the only sane person in this palace full of idiots.
There is definitely a little bit of that,
I mean, that's also kind of what makes it entertaining.
Yes. I mean, it is. I guess the last thing I would bring up is, yes, they're starting to now get into this, like, weird, like it's the classic procedural thing of, wait, you didn't bring this up a single time in the last 30 episodes.
Right.
And suddenly they're like, oh, by the way, Mao Mao, did you know that in not China, women are not allowed to be doctors? Don't let anybody catch you making medicine.
Like you've
And
been
it's like-
doing the whole time.
I mean, it's
You've been,
like
flaunting
it's with the
for
whole-
last 30 episodes.
because a couple of episodes ago there were also other concubines all of a sudden. Like it's always been like, oh, there's 4 of them, there's 4 of them. But did you know there was also this lesser concubine who is like a bit character?
Mhm.
But I mean, retcons are inevitable when something lasts as long as this show does,
that's why I
Like,
say it's very procedural, right? Because
Yeah,
there's a
yeah.
little bit of that writer is flying by the seat of their pants feeling to it.
You-
And I think it
what do you,
speaks a lot-
Mama, what do you mean you didn't know there was an entire clinic in the back of the
I know,
palace?
right? Yes, the hidden women's only clinic. It really is. Yeah, it is like, you know, it's oh man, it's like when you play a live game and they keep like
Yeah.
adding like new features, and they're like, what are you talking about, Guardian? The shooting range has
Yes.
always been.
Yes, the
Oh,
tower has
yeah.
always had this room.
What are you
Yeah.
talking about, Trailblazer? You've always had a room.
Yeah, that's the one
Uh-huh.
I was thinking of recently, where they're like, oh yeah, they're
Okay.
just like gaslighting you that the
there have always been mechs in our ancient fantasy world.
Yeah.
well,
It's good. I mean, it speaks to the likability of the show that like these are like minor quibbles at the end of the day. You know, like not even very serious, right? It's
Yeah.
yeah. Okay. Let's talk about Sorairo Utility. I think the show let me down, guys.
As the other shoe finally dropped.
If you remember, I was already kind of down on it, but the last episode 4, had like the hot-blooded golf battle, and I was back in. I'm like,
Right,
oh,
this
yeah,
was the golf show.
yeah.
I was about to say,
was like-
if you asked me right now to tell you what Sorairo Utility even was, I would not be able to tell you.
all right. This is to recap. This is like the weirdly Gynax trigger adjacent golf
Yes.
show.
It's a cute girls doing cute things golf show that has a little bit of the trigger DNA sprinkled into it, but yeah, these last episodes kind of sucked. And now that we're up to 6 episodes, we've had maybe like 2 good episodes, so the
Yikes.
track record has now we're in the negative on this, but yeah, like the first episode was just like random slice of life stuff happening as it would in a normal cute girls show. So it was like, main girl's got to study for her test, but she wants to play golf. And then, you know, her 2 older senpais that are showing her golf, like one of them's like, oh, you got to train my way and lift weights, and the other one's like, you got to train my way and do yoga. And that's pretty much the entire episode, which was pretty boring, and also starting to get weirdly fan servicey out of nowhere.
I mean,
Oh, yeah.
anime never shy about taking a joke and beating it into the ground.
Like they go to a sauna, so you can do the math on that.
Uh-huh.
But and then the latest episode 6 is like they go to play real golf on a real golf course for the first time, and it was kind of very similar to the OVA, where it's just, here are 3 girls playing golf, and it's not very exciting.
Because
Golf is not that exciting. Yeah.
No rainbow shots. No,
there were
Bullet.
no silver
you know,
wings.
There are some small things that the show still does well that I appreciate. I don't think it's enough to like make it good, but there are still some small things I appreciate. You know, one, they're sticking with the main girl not being some kind of golf protege that just magically is amazing at golf. She is learning at a normal human being pace. So even though it's been like a whole like month or something now, she is not really any better than she was on day 1. They
Sounds
still
familiar.
you know, they still kind of keep trying to emphasize that the magical feeling of, okay, you suck, but you hit that one good shot, and now you want to try it again and keep trying to get that one good shot, right?
It's like when I took tennis classes as a kid and thought I had scored a point when I managed to play the ball back.
Yes, right. Yeah, you just got the ball back over the net. Congrats.
Yeah.
But yeah. No, I used to play a lot of tennis in my younger days, and yeah, I remember that feeling. But yeah, so there's that, and they do have I think they do a good job with kind of small things and giving the girls personality and making their relationship feel like a bunch of friends kind of like joking around and giving each other a hard time, which is nice. So it's well done, but God, it's just them playing golf. It's not like
it's like completely inconsequential.
Yeah, and what I liked about episode 4, and again, I don't need everything to be like hot blooded golf contest here, but I don't know, it was just it was something to kind of raise the energy a little bit.
This damn iPad baby generation, their neurons are just completely fried. God. They can't even enjoy golf without cyborg limbs or
I guess
hidden
so.
lineages.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
titty sweat.
Yeah, right. No robot arms or hypnotic titty sweat, but
transforming courses.
I don't know, guys. I'm 6 episodes in. And one thing I am slightly curious about, because obviously it sounds like the show is not, you don't hold the show in very high esteem. How often does it look like the eye catch? How often does it actually look Trigger-ish? I have shared some of the eye catches with you guys, which look like they were straight from Gurren Lagann, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
And more than you would think, I would say.
Okay.
They do have a lot of, when I'm talking about kind of injecting some personality into the girls, they do have some pretty solid kind of squishy cartoon animation to them. It's probably somewhere more in between Trigger and Doga Kobo when they're at the
No, I mean, the true factor of telling whether something is Trigger is, do they do a joke where a character is just a still PNG who is dragged across the screen and then moves in a
there is I can't remember that exactly happening, but there've been some similar types of little cheap animation tricks like that. So surprisingly more than you would think that comes up.
But not enough to see.
Is that by itself enough to carry an entire show? I don't know. You think about Dungeon Meshi, right? Dungeon Meshi had that in there, but there were a lot of other things going on in Dungeon Meshi that made Dungeon Meshi interesting, right?
One could almost say that paying homage to legendary animators does not on its own make a good show.
It does not.
Of which...
Yeah, thank you, Aqua, for setting up. I don't really have much more to say about Sorairo Utility,
sure.
But yeah, perhaps that is a good transition into our next show on the list.
Yeah.
But.
Well, Jell, if in some ways, Sorairo Utility, you said 2 out of 6 episodes were good. That's a 1 out of 3 hit record.
Wow, it's doing better than
that's better than 0 out of 6.
Hitting above par.
So, Zenshu, yes, in case anybody didn't catch. Yeah, you guys are still watching that, and that's 0 for 6, huh?
Are we still watching this?
Must we invoke the Kyokai Senki rule?
Iro, you sound like you're being held hostage. Iro, sound like you're being held hostage.
You know what? It's I'll tell you what about this show. It's not even it's not bad enough. It's not even so bad that I'm I hate this. It's just, I'm when I watch them, I'm wasting my time. Right? It's it doesn't even make me mad. It's just this is going to immediately exit my brain.
Yes.
2 hours from now, I could spend this 24 minutes doing something more productive, like jacking off.
Just man. Okay. Well,
yeah. So yes, it's this is the thing about Zenshu, right? Is we sort of held out watching the show because okay, look, some of these tributes are actually pretty good. So I guess do we just survive 23 minutes of the most fucking dog shit ass like isekai imaginable, in the hopes of getting to like one like legitimately nicely animated sequence. And the thing that episode 4 and 5, or is it 4 and 5? Oh, my bad. We have not even 6 came out today. We have not watched it.
Right.
The thing about episode 4 and 5 is they don't even have a good animated sequence, or the reference or homage is no good. 4 is like, I think it's like about like, oh, like it's a plot twist in the original movie that the elf girl is actually like a traitor. You know, she's working for the villains, and inadvertently killing her is part of what sends the hero Luke Braveheart deeper down into his like ultimate despair, his Zetsubo, so to speak. And the solution, so it's like, so the gimmick of the episode is like, oh well, you know, Natsuko, you can't just battle shonen your way out of this problem, because this girl, she suffers from the existential ennui of a mortal life as an elf.
She just can't bear to outlive all of her friends, so she's just gonna tear down the entire world.
Yeah, what could you possibly draw to cure her of this?
It's clear, a giant hamburger.
I wish. That would have been better. The answer turns out, it's Ikemen.
I heard about this.
Idols.
God, I heard about this.
So she's like, well, I'll give you a new reason to live. I'm going to introduce stan culture, or I guess in the anime Oshi. I'm going to give you an Oshi, right? And you know, draws like this hot like Ikemen dude who is admittedly voiced by a guy. I get my understanding is a notable.
Moriano, I think.
Yes, a notable voicer of hot men. Fame. Yes, or the voice of
you
know, also the voice of Reinhard von Lohengrin in DNT.
God, that's right.
She's like, wow, a hot boy who will never age and will always exist in my imagination. I found a reason to live again.
I have to say, the like glorification of Oshi culture in anime nowadays is very quickly becoming as annoying as like shitty RPG mechanics.
Yes. I mean, it's an extension of like the whole idol subculture thing.
Yeah,
right? The parasocial relationships and all that. But yes,
you must have watched anime for at least 10 years in order to be able to watch any anime.
Oh man, you know, it's like how people like say that like, oh, like new Blue Sky accounts should be read only for a year or something. You're not allowed to talk about anime until you've watched at least 100. But anyways, so that episode sucks, and it's like, well, how could it get any worse? And then episode 5 is oh no, Natsuko is too good at drawing her way out of problems. And, you know, the episode opens with a montage. This is where we get our fake Gurren Lagann, who gets like 2 seconds of screen time.
Yep.
So, that's how much Mappa thinks Gurren Lagann is worth, apparently, is 2 seconds in a montage. Which, that insult alone may be enough to make me drop Zenshu. We'll see. I'm holding out hope that there will be an Obari episode somewhere in this.
It's on thin ice. You know?
It has to be, right? Like, it would be insane to do a show about animators and not get Obari in here, right? Like, that would be...
Yeah, but that's like mecha anime. No one likes mecha anime. That's for old people. They should reference that.
To come back.
They did the Itano circus.
Reference cool scenes, like that one scene in Demon Slayer where there's a bunch of flashing shit flying all over the screen.
Oh man,
who cares about all that old stuff from the 70s?
Well, you say that, but that montage includes old shit from the 70s. I could not identify, but in that montage, it's like some real Showa era looking baseball player, and I was like,
yeah.
I bet if you're over a certain age, you know exactly who this character is. Like, this is like the boomer. Like, this baseball player is like the Deedlit of boomers.
Wow.
Like,
as if Deedlit was not for boomers, but
well,
okay, man, yeah. It's true.
You're right. There's probably people listening to this podcast right now who are like, who the fuck is Deedlit?
She's from the Wonder Labyrinth, right? Like,
yeah, Deedlit's like my era. That's like 30, 40 years ago.
Like that's like Gen X, right? Like,
I guess. Yeah, I don't know. I say
No,
my
the
era, but
PS2
it was still even
console.
probably too. I say my era, but even I was probably a little too young for when that came out.
All right,
but yes.
fine. This fucking baseball player is like the Deedlit of, I don't know, people who lived through the war. All right, he looks like that. All right.
Oh my God.
I mean, well, that
Actual-
I'm
Showa ass looking manga. Like,
this is a
All of the
podcast.
kids with their crew cuts and their wife
So
beaters.
I'm
watch
trying to
this
use
show.
words to explain what this character looks like.
I got it.
guy, thick lines.
Right? Does he have
Anyway.
sideburns?
I think
No,
so.
but he has a straw.
Okay.
He has a straw in his mouth. You know.
Yeah.
Okay. Yep. Gotcha. All right.
Anyways, point is, this episode is, oh no, she's getting arrogant now because
Yep.
she's just so good at it. And she's like, I don't even need the rest of you. I can solve it all by myself.
Yep, just like
Wouldn't
my
you-
movies and animes.
Yes, and
I'll
wouldn't you-
draw it
and-
all myself.
And I guess like the barest, like the crumb of credit I will give Zenshu is like the state Natsuko in episode 5 is like the de facto state of every other isekai.
Mhm.
Like,
Mhm.
but unironically, right? Like, oh, I have unlimited powers and I'm unstoppable and like, no, you know, like I'm the coolest, the
I'm the
strongest,
coolest
blah, blah,
and
blah.
strongest. Yep.
And but all those shows do it unconditionally, right? The slightest bit I'll give the credit to Zenshu is that they're actually doing this to set up Natsuko for her big fall, right? Like, you know, the
Mhm.
episode ends with this week's drawing some really generic samurai dude. So generic I couldn't even place it because I was like, I mean, like there's
Just
not
looks
even
like
that many.
a samurai.
There's
Yeah,
not really that many samurai anime. That I
Not
can
that
think
many
of off the top of my
samurai
head.
anime, actually, when you really think about it. It's kind of like it's mostly manga. Anyways, at that aside, I don't know why she thought like this samurai dude would get it done. Like, but anyways, yeah, the samurai she draws, eats shit, and dies.
I
and-
mean, because he has Japanese
Steel,
steel.
yeah.
oh yeah, his
100,000
Japanese steel,
times.
exactly.
So,
Nippon
that's the regular
steel.
swords, yeah.
But anyways, episode ends with her about to get got by some demon. I mean, obviously it's not going to happen, but like,
Uh-huh.
so, you know, I in all seriousness, if you want my actual like, okay, why is this worth watching? I mean, the answer is it's not. But my justification is, at its core, the story is in theory supposed to be about like rediscovering like why you do art and like
Yes,
what
learning
drives you
to-
to
Yeah.
to create.
And
And
also
I guess
like learning to rely on your friends and staff for help.
Yes.
Like,
exactly, right? That like art, all commercial art is a collaborative process, right? Like there are no such thing as one man shows, you know. And I guess the hope is that now that she has her fall from grace, maybe we can actually get into the like, okay, Natsuko, but like, why do you draw, right? Why do you want to do this? Like, why do you hold yourself up to such a high standard as an artist, as a creator? And I'm not, here's the thing, to be clear, I don't expect Zenshu to have good answers, but
mhm.
as somebody who also does this for a living and also asks these questions to myself every 7 to
Yes.
14 minutes of the day,
Yep.
It's because I
There's-
want to shine on stage. No, wait, that's something else.
different.
Yeah.
There is a part of me that is like, well, even if this is a bad story about like interrogating what drives creativity, I suppose there is a sick part of me that wants to see what Zenshu's like answer is to that question.
Right.
You know,
How likely is the chance that the answer is love?
That's probably
Power-
what it is.
our friendship.
That is
Uh,
literally like,
I wanted to draw because I fell in love with Luke Braveheart, and I like wanted to draw a Ikemen as cool as he is, or like something like that.
I know. I was so inspired in a nondescript fashion
Right.
by Tales of Parachute or whatever.
Oh,
My
I-
Millennium Princess cross Kowloon.
Yep.
that just made me think. Oh, we don't have time to talk about it. I'm going to talk about it next time. But I watched some Orb, and
Yeah.
there was a whole dialogue section where they're like, "Why are you willing to die for this?" And he's like, "I was inspired," and that's all he says.
Mhm.
Anyway, yeah, That still sounds bad. Coincidentally, I watched Look Back Again with one of my other sisters this weekend, and that's still very good.
Yep.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Sure is.
That
All right.
Tatsuki Fujimoto guy is onto some stuff. I'm curious to see what he does next.
You might know a thing or two.
Yeah. Did you guys have anything else on Zenshu, or are we good?
No, we can.
I have nothing else to say about Zenshu.
Okay. Well, I didn't think we were going to be able to fill this much time with the show, the currently airing stuff, but I guess here we are.
Oh, you can't back out now, Joe.
No, but
I'm locked.
nevertheless, we had other things that we want to talk about, and especially with Aqua and Iroh here, we can catch up on some of the various children shows that you guys are watching.
You can only ask me about tokusatsu when someone else is here.
Look, man, I gotta balance. I gotta keep the world in balance. Okay,
Yes.
you're on every episode. I'm
Like
sorry.
the avatar of anime.
That's me.
If you ever really have something you want to talk about, you just stick it in the show notes.
Yes. I mean, Bakuage Sentai Boonboomger finished its airing this weekend.
Yep.
Upon which we were recording, we are coming in hot off of the final episode. I don't even know the last time we talked about Boonboomger.
It's been a little while.
I mean, brief thing.
It's
like
a Super
this,
Sentai, but yeah.
Yeah, like this was a Sentai show that was like meant as a bit more of a throwback to the good old days, right? The last show we had last year, King Oger, if you recall, was a bit more ambitious. Like it used a lot of CG. It used like CG sets to create an elaborate fantasy setting, and as a result, ended up looking like shit.
Yep.
And it also tried to do a bit more of a bit more mature, complicated, epic narrative that also fell completely flat. So Boonboomger is more like a throwback to like good old days of dudes in rubber suits and puppets and
Cars
like
and
monsters causing petty
Yeah.
mischief, and like the heroes basically being children in the bodies of grown-ups. Except for like the last 8-ish episodes of Boonboomger, which have been like really hardcore.
The plot suddenly gets really serious because the like corporations of Earth have been colluding with the evil aliens to get their hands
like the
on.
government is in on it. The cops are in on it. Like it is institutional corruption.
Yes,
of like
top to bottom.
These elites who have sold out humanity to like the space mafia to make a quick buck and are now using fake news to turn the Sentai into public enemy number one.
Yeah.
And then like, go ahead, Hiro.
It's so fucking funny to me. The Red Ranger is, screaming in anguish at his mentor who's, betrayed them and sold them out, is stealing all of his assets. And
his adoptive father like robbed him blind.
And this older man is explaining to him, you need to get with the times, Taya. The Hashilians are the second coming of the black ships.
Okay.
Just the black ships, of course, refer to to Commodore Perry's
the
ships
that
Japan. Let's sail to Japan and tell them to open the fuck up, or else we'll shoot you with our cannons.
Dragging Japan, kicking and screaming into
the Meiji area,
quote unquote modern world. Yeah.
So does this also end with a politician being killed in an alley by a man in a rubber suit?
I wish.
No, they just punch Michael Jackson so hard he turns into dust, and then the evil politicians get arrested.
It always works. Famously, when evil politicians get arrested, they definitely get convicted.
I mean, they literally say this. They say,
I know, he's like, this isn't going to stop me in any way.
Oh, man. Okay.
Yeah, like you can arrest me, but the Hashilians control the international courts. They control like the space judiciary. Like,
it's just like there's no point almost other than we stopped them today, and we'll always strive for a world with all smiles or what have you.
Right, where the smiles of children. Where there are no screams, despite all the hot-blooded screams that we do.
Yes, and so in the fucking epilogue, they where everything's good now that we've won, and the fucking news programs are saying, yes, the incident of 6 months ago, Hashilian Gate.
Oh my god.
Where lots of corruption was exposed. It's just, I think it's incredibly funny.
This is the interesting thing of like, okay, to be clear, I do not, I assume, what was his game? Boonboomger? Is that what it's called?
Boonboomger, yeah.
Yes, I want to make sure I refer to it correctly. I assume Boonboomger is still broadly a show for children, right?
Oh,
like,
yeah,
this is not
absolutely. Yeah,
Kamen Rider Black, this is not, right?
No.
I think there's something really fascinating about, like, especially foreign media, like, sometimes that, like, when... And this is not to say that these are problems that are distant to Japan or not experienced in Japan, but there's almost that sense of, like, oh, we can, like, do this, like, insane ripped from the headlines thing with, like, almost a certain degree of, like, bravery or insane boldness that even that, like, our own domestic
it's the Starfish
Western
Hitler
media
thing. Like,
yeah, exactly. It's Starfish Hitler. No, yes, exactly. Perfect.
Yes.
Right, where it's like, oh, like
what other medium could possibly have Starfish Hitler?
Right. It's like, no American show is going to just, like, straight up just, like, say to your face, or no American kids show is going to just, like, look you in the eye and be like, these politicians will face no consequences for their crimes because they packed the courts prior to their inevitable arrest. Like, but, like, you can kind of do that when, like, you are in some ways insulated from, like...
Yeah, the Black Ranger in the show is a cop, and he resigns from the force when he finds out it's a corrupt institution that is working together with, the evil elites and the aliens. The only good cop is a cop who resigns.
God, it was. The show has been just like goofy, fun times the whole time, and so to have it suddenly pivot is extremely funny, right?
Also, like, shout out to, like, the fact that they kill the robot who is voiced by Ash dead by, like, shooting him, and there's, like, an exit wound, and he stays dead for, like, 10 episodes.
Like 3 episodes.
Yeah. I think it's longer. Also, they tried to bring him back with a MacGuffin that is just a disco ball prop.
Just... completely ridiculous, top to bottom. It's been a lovely time with Boonboomger.
It is just a perfect encapsulation of what makes Toku fun. Like,
I was gonna say I'm sad to see it go, but, like, the thing about these is there's always a new one, and that's part of the charm too. So it's been a lovely time with Boonboomger, and as for Kamen Rider Gavv, it's been
all Sentai are the same, but this will be the only Sentai in which the Pink Ranger is forced to marry Michael Jackson, but it's all just a ploy so they can blow up Michael Jackson's monkey, who is the source of his powers.
Yes.
So Kamen Rider Gavv.
Yep.
Kamen Rider Gavv. I don't recall the last time we spoke on Kamen Rider Gavv either.
We have only ever done first impressions.
Oh my god.
Yes. So...
Kamen Rider Gavv, it's been surprisingly solid.
Right. The thing is, like...
Go ahead.
Oh, no, go. Yeah. No. The thing is, like, this show is, like, it's a surprisingly well-written show with complex, like, sort of, like, interesting characters who behave in realistic ways. The plot is always moving forwards in interesting directions. But I think, Iro, you'll agree with me when I say that this show's main flaw is that the aesthetics do not match the writing.
Yes, because the aesthetics are all candy and chips and snacks. And meanwhile, the plot is like, I'm a child of rape and I'm going to kill my fathers and all of my siblings.
Right.
Like, so is it really that crazy? You guys talk about like the fruit one.
Yeah, but that's Urabuchi, right? Like,
yeah, but it's still fruit.
So, Kamen Rider Gavv
wears an orange for a pauldron, and you're like, oh, no, see, that one, the aesthetics match the storytelling perfectly.
I think now, what I would say, you're right, you're hitting on thing, but what I'd say is like the aesthetics in Gavv are just are more than mismatched. They are actively obnoxious at times.
Yeah, like at least Kamen Rider Baron Banana Arms looks cool, like, even though he fights with a big banana.
He sure does. Anyway, yes.
I mean, so the thing is, so this show is like about like, oh, you know, you have like a different dimension where like aliens called the Grenoude live, and the Grenoude society is basically like a hellhole run by a drug cartel that makes drugs out of people. So they'll like send in people to our dimension to kidnap folks and turn them into drugs.
Beastars.
Right.
Yep.
And the family, the cartel is run by like a family, and our hero is the bastard child of the former patriarch of the cartel.
Mm-hmm. His mother was kidnapped to their world, and he spent his entire childhood like living in the small room, right?
Together with his mother, who taught him about the world, and then they killed her in front of him like 5 times.
Yeah.
So the whole thing is like he comes to Earth. He's an alien. He doesn't really know much about Earth culture, but you know, he is a goody guy who's going to save the humans from being turned into drugs. And the thing is, like, I think a perfect example of how the aesthetics of this show don't match the tone is like, Hiro already knows what I'm going to say. So the thing is, like, the first arc sees like Kamen Rider square off with like his younger twin siblings, right? Because they're the people in the field, you know. They have to recruit guys who will kidnap humans. They have to coordinate the drug deals and all of that stuff. And they're like your standard creepy twins, you know, like, oh, it's a boy and a girl. The boy dresses like a girl and the girl dresses like a boy. They speak in unison. They finish each other's sentences. You know the thing. Like, so there's an entire like, we're building up to this subplot where their position in the company is being threatened because Kamen Rider keeps foiling all of their plans. So the big brother, who's like the boss now, is like, oh, we're gonna like have you, you know, you guys don't need to bother coming to work anymore. We're just gonna marry you off to like members of other prominent alien Zaibatsu for like business. So in a final attempt to win back their credibility, they like put up an ambush and try to kill Kamen Rider, who is their half brother. And the thing is, like, this episode has like a charming setup in that the whole thing is about like Kamen Rider having to fight for his survival because, you know, his friend has like he has baked a cake together with his friend and they're going to eat it. And like, oh, it's like a celebration of their friendship. And this is like set up with a parallel flashback of how the twins also had like a birthday cake, but all of their other siblings were too busy with work to have them eat her. And Kamen Rider shows up, is like, I'll eat your cake with you. And they're like, no, you filthy half-blood. We don't want your filthy cake. Which all results in Kamen Rider fighting his siblings, getting a cake-themed power-up that makes him look, well, it's called K-King because he looks like a king, but he's made of cake. And he fights with a big piping bag
that's shaped like a sword. Yeah.
And shoots whipped cream.
Yes, he grabs the bowl at the bottom of the blade and squeezes it, and it shoots out the cream.
Okay.
So we get a scene in which he manages to like beat his younger brother and is like ready to do the finishing move. But then the sister like takes the hit for him and just fucking dies. He kills his sister, driving the brother like insane because they're like parts of the same whole. What will happen to them now? Except he does this by spraying a bunch of white goop onto her until she explodes.
Yes.
Come on, guys! The Emoto craze ended in the 2010s.
No,
that was a different,
and that is just like
era.
That is just. This is it. Like, it's this very dramatic scene, traumatizing for all of the characters. But it's hard to take seriously because he is beating her with a big piping bag that shoots white goop. Like,
yes, like it's very in context. It's very dramatic that he has just killed his sister but like act like straight up just killed her.
I suppose with your
but he-
exhaustive
yes, he-
explanation, I can see the subtle differences between this and, I don't know, the Fruit Samurai, I guess.
Yeah.
you know?
I mean, like at
There are
some point,
subtleties at
like
work
a
here.
new, like vaguely evil Kamen Rider shows up. You know, it's like an interesting character because he's one of the aliens who's infiltrating the cartel in order to avenge his brother, whom they literally like got addicted to drugs, and then when the brother took to stealing, he got basically like lynched. So he's like, I'm gonna avenge my brother and kill everyone in this cartel. So he like, to gain the trust of the cartel, he like allows himself to be turned into their enforcer to fight Kamen Rider, and he becomes a cool evil Kamen Rider who kicks everyone's ass. But also he transforms by like opening up a cup of pudding, and then pudding falls on top of him, and he transforms
none of the
Mr.
words that you're saying make any sense to me anymore.
Right, and it's like how cool can Kamen Rider Ram and his chainsaw bow sword really be when
chainsaw bow sword scythe? You mean?
Yeah, yes. Like how cool can he really be when like he transforms by pudding falls on top of him and then he cuts his way out of the pudding. Like,
you're saying this is good?
Yes.
Like that's
Okay.
the thing, right? This is like this is the eternal tension of Kamen Rider is they must always have some weird theme to sell themed toys, and the plot may or may not work with this in any way. And it's like, yeah, even with Gaim, as we've mentioned, like when Urabuchi was signed on and everything, they were basically like, do whatever you want, but it has to be Fruit Samurai theme. Because we're already making the toys.
Yeah.
Like,
he just ignored the fruit part and wrote what he wanted.
Oh no, the fruits play an integral role in the story.
Oh, okay.
It's about the forbidden fruit from the Garden of Eden.
We can't. We can't. That show is like 15 years old now. We can't.
Can't
go there.
Yes, Gavv is, for considering the past several years of Kamen Rider, it's got a like surprisingly dark story with like characters with actual motivations, and it's quite interesting, graded on that curve. And also, I hate the candy stuff. I hate how his belt goes whenever he, has to transform. Like, I think that sucks. But also, he did spray his sister so much with cream that she exploded, killing her instantly. Right? Like,
Well.
and it has to go through like the emotional follow of I killed my sibling because they are kidnapping people and turning them into drugs, and they killed my mom. Yeah. So this is what I must do.
Okay.
Yeah, just I don't know. That's
a lot to take in.
Look, man, I'm just saying, like the second rider, his buddy, who like really hates the aliens because they killed his mom too, and like he's just found out that our main character is actually related to them, and just at that moment, the villains have made a clone of the main character who's causing mischief all over town. So the second rider is like, oh no, you were evil all along, and it's good. It's a good show.
Okay.
Yes,
I will take your word for it.
It's a good show. Asterisk grading on the curve of modern Kamen Rider, right?
Like, yeah.
Okay. Well, what else we got?
What else we got?
There's a new Precure.
Aqua, did you want to mention Precure real quick?
Yeah, there's a new Precure show. Well, so you see, the Precure franchise has been a bit on the decline lately because 2 years ago they allowed a boy to become a Precure.
Right.
And I was like, what's next? They're going to let a dog be a Precure? And guess what happened? The next year, they let a dog be a Precure. And now they're like sliding even further into degeneracy. Now they're letting an even lower life form be a Precure because the newest Precure show is about idols.
Okay.
Okay.
But I'm happy to report that it's just a Precure show. Like the idol thing barely factors into it. So, you have like, I'm a peppy middle school girl who is kind of an idiot but has a heart of gold. And I bump into a shitty mascot who's a complete fucking useless piece of shit, but he gives me magical powers to fight household objects that have turned into giant monsters. And like all of Toei's best animators go ape shit in the first episode.
Right.
And the punching and kicking is back. Like that's
Did it go away?
Yes, the last Precure show, which is called Wonderful Precure, did not have punching and kicking. They still fought monsters, but like the thing is, like,
Then why are we even here?
the monsters were like corrupted animals. So it's like, oh, we can't hurt animals. So
Hell, we can't.
We can punch
was-
people, but animals is different.
it was more like no, because they don't punch people either. They only punch animated household objects.
Mhm.
What is this Precure called? The current one?
This one is called You and Idol Precure.
Ugh.
You and Idol. Oh, okay.
So the big thing that was wrong with the last one is that there were no fight scenes, and like all of the quote unquote fights were more like weird chase sequences where we like try to get the monster to calm down so we can hug it and then blow it up.
Mhm.
But now
Okay.
they're just punching and kicking.
Hang on. When we say the thing wrong with the last series, are we talking about for the target audience or for the people, the adults that are watching this?
Correct me if I'm wrong, guys, but like one of the main pillars of like Precure as a franchise is like, though they are magical girls who are color coded and sparkly, like they have always fought the monsters by just beating them
Right.
up.
Yes, like the physical combat is a
Okay, that's part of
Core
the history of Precure.
pillar of the Precure franchise.
Gotcha.
Like, because Zig and I have also been watching the original Futari wa Precure, the first show in the franchise, and it's just very obvious how, like, the punching and kicking is there from the start, but also these girls get beaten up a lot. Like, every episode. And it's like, well, it's
So,
probably
like,
a good thing that they toned that down. Like,
Okay.
but like it's way more like Toku adjacent than like most other kid focused
Magical
magic.
girls.
All right. So
shows,
we got
right?
magical fist fighting idol girls.
Yeah.
All right.
And yep, I mean it's a Precure show. The outfits are frilly, the mascots are shitty, and there's a guy playing the slap bass in the ending, so it has everything you want.
Okay.
Sure.
Sure.
Anyway, back to good anime.
All right. Well, that'll conclude the children's show
Uh-huh.
hour, I guess. Here. We'll move on to my new segment, I guess, and we're talking about some listener recommendations. So we did this last time, where I took a couple shows because I'm literally the only like presently airing show I'm watching is Sorairo Utility right now, and
For now.
technically Beastars, I guess, if you were officially counting that this season, but.
That's right. We take requests now. If you know other shows about spraying white stuff all over your sister until she explodes, let us know in the comments.
Mhm.
Look, I already watched a Rainbow.
Yep.
Look, so anyway, for this episode, we picked up. I picked up two more shows. We had somebody on Blue Sky. I didn't catch their name here. Porl, Porl on Blue Sky. So recommended a couple of things. One of them was Land of the Lustrous, and the other was Aka 13. Did you guys watch that?
I watched somewhere between 3 and 5 episodes of it.
That's
I
the
know you
one
guys-
with really good ED, right?
Yeah,
Or the OP,
yeah.
or both. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I believe I watched the first episode of both of those shows, but I knew that the Aka 13 is not going to be my thing. It's very nice looking, but I was not going to do that. I remember watching Land of the Lustrous and liking it,
This
but
one,
not having time.
Yeah.
At the
This
time
is sort
to
of
watch
a
it.
like, when I think of Land of the Lustrous, I'm like, oh yeah, that show is a sort of cult favorite
Yeah.
among a certain
Yeah.
crowd, and
It
has been for years. Right.
has a very passionate, I think it's fair to say, cult following.
Right.
I do want to say one.
Oh, go ahead.
What
I
if
do- I wanna
Kumiko
say-
Euphonium was a rock?
Yeah, I want to say one thing before I get into these shows, because one thing I've realized these past couple of weeks as I've been doing these, a lot of shows have been quietly disappearing off of streaming services, and it's not just Crunchyroll,
Sure.
it's High Dive, it's Netflix, and some of them, like, okay, they're really old. Maybe there's that's a little more understandable. Land of the Lustrous was only like 7 years ago, which is kind of a long time, but not really that long in the grand scheme of things. And that was also recently removed. So none of these shows that I have watched for these listener recommendations have been available on streaming services, and that sucks and is kind of infuriating. And before anybody hits me with this is why we need physical media. That's not the answer. We have the technology to do this. That is a band-aid. This makes me very angry because
also, is the physical media even still available? Because physical media goes out of print. Like,
I could go buy the Blu-ray of Land of Lustrous right now if I wanted to.
Okay.
I don't want to because I haven't watched the show yet.
Yeah.
We have the technology to do this. Instead of the physical media, what we need is to destroy the real problem, which is capitalism.
There we go.
Yay!
Roll out the guillotines. Destroy the rich. I am done with all of this. Yes, it's this issue out of everything that has pushed me to to this point. But anyway, I'm just mentioning that. Also, Legend of the Galactic Heroes got taken off High Dive.
Oh, damn.
Wow, how dare they?
That's
another show stricken from my my signing out at the end of every episode of Legend of the GLORIO Heroes.
Yeah, so that's gotten me fired up in particular. But anyway, Land of the Lustrous. My first thoughts watching this again. I remember the premise of the show, but like I didn't remember any of the details or anything from the episode. So it was pretty fresh to me still. My first thoughts were this looks a lot better than I remember, and
it's orange, right?
Yeah, this is one of the.
It is the first. I think it's the first full show that Orange did right before Beastars. The next one being Beastars.
Right. They worked on.
They on other.
They did like CG stuff that was part of other shows before that, but I think it was their first full.
I think it's their first all CG full series. It looks pretty good, and I think part of it might be too that I've now become more, I guess, receptive to all CG anime, having had a few kind of pretty nice looking ones over the past several years. So it actually looks pretty good, better than I remember. And my other kind of just initial general thought, and I'm going to try to say this in a way that doesn't. I want it to be clear. I do not mean this as derogatory. I'm using this as a descriptive word.
Yes,
but it feels a bit amateurish, like big OC do not steal kind of energy. Which is not to say again. It's because the premise feels so kind of like random cool stuff the author liked that they kind of mixed together to make a story. And that doesn't mean it isn't, I think, well written and thought out and everything that because I do think it is, but that's kind of, I don't know. It's because the premise, if anybody is not familiar, it is like post apocalypse. I think humans are gone. And the current living things on Earth are, these genderless gem people. There's like a couple. I think there's only like 30 of them or something that are vaguely immortal, and they're fighting some some sort of divine creatures that keep appearing, and they're trying to fight them off. So it's the future liberals want, right? With the see also Steven Universe, but yeah, and it's in the first episode we see a lot of just like some daily life, adding some humanity to these gem people. The main character Foss, their thing is like they are very they have the properties of the gem that they're made up, because they're literally made out of like gemstones, right? But like since Foss is very like brittle, they can't go into combat. And so, but they're kind of like this energetic type of kid. So like they were like, give me something to do. I want to fight. And they end up getting the very boring job of creating an encyclopedia
Which
the
means,
V.
but hey, that means they get to go watch every single fight.
Right. So it's like, since they are the last presumably living things on the planet, somebody should start documenting things, right? So they're given that job, and they befriend Cinnabar, who is also very fragile, but has like the even worse property of like giving off poison, so no one can come near them.
Yeah, Cinnabar
And-
is like a form of mercury, I think. So
Yeah.
really,
So the first episode is kind of them meeting, and I wouldn't say they're friends yet, but they're clearly on that path, right? And we see some pretty cool fights with like these divine angel like creatures coming down from the heavens. At this point not really explained who they are or why they're trying to murder everyone, which is kind of interesting. But yeah, I still enjoyed it. Do I want to watch more of it? Maybe. I might give it the 3 episodes.
might as well be a ringing endorsement, honestly, these days.
I mean,
Yeah,
if you want to watch a show about like people in the post-apocalypse fighting mysterious creatures that also features a lot of weird colors, have you considered Momentary Lily by Gohans?
Nope.
Ouch.
Sure didn't.
We're done with currently airing anime. We are in backlog territory now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so
no, in all seriousness, yeah, I've always heard like, well, again, the land of the Lustrous fan base is vocal, right? So, but I've always heard the sentiment that this is like a pretty interesting show, like that it goes some places.
Yeah, I could see it getting. You don't know, from what I've kind of with the context of what I've heard over the years, and also I could see the groundwork being laid for this becoming a very emotionally intense series. Yeah. In the first episode, we mostly see all the characters kind of joking around and making the best out of their very difficult situation that they're in.
Right.
But I could see that as their relationships build and things, how that could be turned into a very intense thing. So I think there's good potential in it. For me, like I said, the premise itself feels so random right now that like it just feels like kind of cool things that were grabbed out of the air and smashed together.
It's early on, right? I feel like this is a common thing because this is also an adaptation of a manga, right? So
yes,
I feel like you sometimes get this where it's like, oh yeah, they're adapting the like first few chapters where the writer hadn't quite figured out like where they wanted to take it, but
yeah. So I think it's worth maybe pushing to the 3 episode test, and we'll see.
I mean, the thing is also, it's like one of those like hyper-specific interests things that you see more often in manga, right? Like, oh, this manga guy's really into gemstones. And like, what a mangaka usually does is making a show about 4 cute girls in a club who do the thing that they're obsessed with. But I mean, I guess this mangaka wanted to do something a bit different.
Wanted to make them genderless gem people that attack and dethrone God.
Yeah.
So I apologize for all the mimetic phrases I'm throwing into this review. I can't help myself, but yeah. So yeah, I think it's I think it's interesting enough to watch a little bit more. Go ahead, G.
I was gonna say one last thing I'll say about this show. I have not watched it, but peek behind the curtain. When I was looking at shows to like potentially like do backlog for during the like particularly grim summer of like 2021 or whatever. So as we all know, we went down a certain path, right? I brought Thunderbolt Fantasy to the fray, and I was like, we're gonna become Thunderbolt Fantasy people.
Okay. Yep.
Land of the Lustrous was actually one of the other shows I was just considering bringing up as a backlog show. In the end, the reason I went with Thunderbolt Fantasy It's because Land of the Lustrous has not gotten any more anime since its first season.
Yeah.
My understanding is there's a little bit minor consternation in the fandom because, like, obviously they want Orange to make it, and Orange is busy with Beastars, so there's a
Yeah.
little bit of like, God damn it, like fucking quit it with
I
these
wouldn't want
animals.
any-
Fucking, we want to see these gems have sex instead, you know.
Mhm.
But also, just to be fair, the reason why I also picked this show is because I had seen out of context clips from it that made me go, wow, that actually looks pretty cool. It's just that Thunderbolt Fantasies random out of context clips looked a little bit cooler. So,
Yeah.
So what you're saying is that you were looking for a show to like become a certain kind of guy.
Oh yeah. No,
You know, like a guy who is like, yeah, but that's cool. But have you considered watching this?
Oh, with Thunderbolt, yeah. I think Artemis
Your
was
other
also
option
pushing.
was probably Symphogear.
I think Artemis was also pushing Thunderbolt Fantasy.
I made a real effort to become a Symphogear guy, and it's not my
I did too, and that's not happening.
Symphogear is just kind of boring.
Yeah, it's not. People who love Symphogear are ignoring a lot.
Because I mean,
to get
I
to the
get
good
it.
stuff.
You know, they're like, oh, but she
There's good stuff in there, but yeah,
and you know, it's like she punches, and I'm like, that's great.
Yep. Yeah, she sure punched that mountain, and it was cool. But that was like 30 seconds of like 60 episodes. Okay, yeah. So, and again, in case anybody didn't hear me, I did want to mention. I think Artemis was also pushing Thunderbolt Fantasy so that she doesn't get on us the next time she's on.
Yes,
pushing it. Yes, but anyway. So yeah, Land of the Lustrous, pretty cool. We'll probably watch a little more of that. As for the other show, you guys remember Honey and Clover?
Wait,
it's like a noted shoujo / josei manga.
Yes,
I remember Eden of the East.
This was recommended by. This was recommended by Granonymous, another longtime reader / listener. So they mentioned this as since you guys like Look Back, maybe you should check out Honey and Clover. Now, of course, I remember Honey and Clover was a pretty big deal in the like late 2000s.
Yeah,
and
it was like a big, long-running.
Eventually,
thing of that
it
era.
kind of faded from cultural memory, and it probably got replaced by the author's next work, which was March Comes In Like a Lion.
Yes,
and I sure love March Comes In Like a Lion. I don't remember where I placed it on my top anime of the 2010s, but it's on my list. So, and I kind of vaguely remember hearing some things about Honey and Clover, but I never actually watched it. So, I went back and watched episode 1. I found it. It is not easy to find these days, but you know, I did find it. And
was it on YouTube in 3 parts?
No, you know, I found it in the places that you find things when they're not legally available. So yeah, I think I mostly enjoyed the first episode. I probably need to see some more, but there were okay. So I know it's the same author as March Comes In Like a Lion. They're not really the same shows at all, which I appreciate when authors aren't just like making the same thing over and over again. So, you know, that's fine. But this is a story about a group of like art students in college that are broke and kind of annoying.
Okay. So art students.
I didn't say it, but yeah, and the first episode is kind of just introducing you to, you know, all of them, and you know, they all have kind of different personality types and things, and it's a very kind of if I didn't know any better, the first episode is a very almost like wacky anime comedy, and I don't think that's what the show is going to fully be throughout the rest of its run, but the first episode, that's pretty much what it is. You know, like one of the guys, he can't get up for his classes ever, and he tells one of the other guys to wake him up, and he's like, okay, how hard could it be? But when he tries to wake him up, he's like literally like punching him in the face, and the guy won't get up. And isn't it so silly, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is like key levels of like dumb slapstick comedy to then pivot into big drama.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm assuming that we'll get more of that later. None of that. There's no drama in the first episode.
Right. Okay.
There is an implication. They introduced the two like girl characters, which one of them looks like she's 9 years old, but they clearly state that she's 18. And I think one of the guys definitely falls in love with her instantly. And like, I don't know what was in the water in the late 2000s with all like the like so-called 18 plus girls that look like they're 9, but that was a thing back then.
It was the style of the time.
And
me to
it. And yeah, so I think at least one of the guys falls in love with her, and one of the other guys might have also fallen in love with her, which will probably cause conflict at some point. And then there's the more like adult looking girl that shows up who's thinks they're all like dumbasses or something. But I would need to watch more, and I will say I would probably only watch more based on the reputation of the show and the author. The first episode didn't really blow me away, and in some ways was kind of annoying. A lot of the guys were like, I love like dirtbag comedy, but like there's a fine line between like lovable dirtbags and just being straight up annoying.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt like most of these dudes were more over the straight up annoying line. Maybe that would change over time, but and I loved March Comes in Like a Lion, so I have some faith in the author to really craft a meaningful story out of this. But man, without that context, I don't know if I was really feeling the first episode that much. So
right,
I don't know. If I have time, I might watch another episode or two, but it's not on the top of my priority list. What I might do, I'll just throw out. We got a comment yesterday about Bang Dream My Go, which I watched last time. I might watch another episode or two of that as well, just to kind of give it its final get the full scope on that. But we'll see. We'll see if I get any other recommendations first. Yeah. So far, I think out of the ones I've watched, Land of the Lustrous is at the top of the list, so I'm feeling pretty confident about watching a little bit more of that at least. And hey, if anybody's got any other ones, throw them at me here.
Send them in.
Yep. Okay. So this episode really has gone on longer than I expected here, but I don't want to cut you guys off.
We don't have to. Somehow I knew it in my heart. The moment I realized the Boonboomger conversation was going to go long, I was like, all right, never mind. Like, this ain't.
We had to fit a 48 episode show into.
Fair enough.
All right. Well, do you guys want to? We had put in the notes for Backlog here. Do you guys want to say anything on it now, or do we want to move that to next time? But I feel like it's a lot. It's gonna be a lot to cover, probably, that you want to say on these shows.
This is too much to cover, so we'll just touch on it briefly here. Hiro and I have been watching Ghost in the Shell standalone complex, the 2002 TV adaptation of the Shiro Masamune manga.
Yes, which is the first Ghost in the Shell that I have ever watched.
Yes.
Oh, you never saw the movie?
Nope.
Oh wow. Okay. Yes, I mean, I don't know how much seeing the movie has any bearing on the standalone complex.
Well, and that's why I think it's really interesting to introduce him to the show this way. I won't go into it too long, but just yes, the original standalone complex is, like, to me personally, my platonic ideal Ghost in the Shell in many ways. Like, it is. It is cyberpunk in all the familiar ways. It is transhumanist. It is, it is deeply interrogating a lot of like science fiction concepts. But unlike the Mamoru Oshii films or the Masamune manga, I find that standalone complex takes a very like socio-economic and political angle on many of these transhumanist topics. It's less like what does it mean to be a cyborg and more what are the direct socioeconomic consequences of being a cyborg? And I find that to just, I think, be a little bit more impressionable on me. I think the like one sentence blurb on standalone complex is, I think, not really a fault of itself, but because Standalone Complex was such a deeply influential show on cyberpunk, there's a lot in Standalone Complex that has arguably like been expanded upon and maybe done better by other cyberpunk works in the last 20 years.
Yeah.
Like we get to certain aspects of cyberpunk because of Standalone Complex, but it does mean going back to it. It is a little like, and this is not all the time. I think the show still holds up fairly well. But there is the occasional like, oh, what if a computer did something it wasn't supposed to do? And it's like, yeah, bro.
What
like,
if they could hide cameras in places that weren't obvious?
But again, you know, it was made in 2002, so like, it's in some ways, its conception of the future is an entire generation removed from where we are now.
Yeah.
So is this an adaptation of the original manga, or is this a sequel to the movies?
Neither.
Not really
Neither one.
Okay.
Yeah. It's
Every
just
Ghost in the Shell is basically its own continuity. Like,
you could say
has
it's
the same...
standalone. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Like
the question of canon is quite complex.
Yes, they all have.
But it tells a completely different story than both the manga and the Oshii movies.
Yes. It's the same cast, but in a different context, a different style. Like that's generally the way to think of it. So, you really like there is no like prescribed watch order to Ghost in the Shell for anybody curious. You can like just watch any of them, like and. Yeah, they are all like standalone. Like there's no required like, oh, you know, you got to like watch this or read this. No, you could approach them however you wish. But yeah, and then the other show we've been watching is Planets, which is the adaptation of Makoto Yukimura's previous manga before Vinland Saga. Which is a very like grounded sci-fi story about it's a workplace comedy, basically, about a crew of like debris haulers in space.
I didn't know. I either didn't know or forgot it was the same author, but that's some range.
Yeah, and it's you know like it's the really interesting thing of like it's sci-fi, right? So obviously very different setting, and like the focus is very different, right? It's you know like they are in space and they are mostly garbage men, right? Like there's so much debris in space that like there's a constant effort to like clean it up, right? Especially as mankind expands to the stars. And it's interesting because there's all that where it's like very grounded, right? Like, you know, I think the anime quite literally consulted with like JAXA, Japan's space agency, for consulting on it. And so it has like a very grounded, very realistic take on space travel that makes space travel really fucking scary.
Like it is for real.
Yeah. And that is like juxtaposed against like that very recognizable, like kind of Makoto Yukimura humanism, right? Like it's a very optimistic work in many ways. Like it is not like, it does not shy away from like the difficulties of the world, the conflicts that plague humanity. In fact, one of like Planet's main theses is that expanding to space did not solve our problems. Like racism still exists, discrimination still exists, global inequality still exists, you know, colonialism still exists. But perhaps if mankind,
maybe this time,
it's literally that. It's like if mankind can embrace its better qualities and extend its hand to its fellow man, we can like strive together to a better future. Very Makoto Yukimura.
Yes,
if we can just make it to Vinland.
Yeah, except here is if we can make it to Jupiter.
All right.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't want to just talk all the. I mean, Ira, I would like to, you know, obviously, if you'd like to give some of your thoughts on these shows.
I mean, I'm enjoying both of these shows quite a bit. I don't think there's anything quite like Planets that I've seen, because like the combination of like workplace comedy plus extremely grounded like setting and things that they are doing. Like I think when we were talking about like Kaiju number 8, and we were like, a seinen manga is about having an interesting job, right? I think
right,
like
yes.
this is the sort of thing that I was thinking of, right?
Right.
Of like we have our interpersonal stuff, and we're doing our weird job that's involves space and let us explore the various aspects of space.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so I'm enjoying it quite a bit. As the series has gone on, it's gotten more about the interpersonal relationships and stuff, which I'm, let's say, less interested in than some of the space stuff. But it's not like it's bad, like it's still solid stuff.
Yeah.
I think weirdly enough, Ghost in the Shell never really appealed to me that much, but Planets was one I never got around to watching that I feel like I should watch at some point in my life. It sounds
It's
especially
quite good.
especially now that we're making the Vinland Saga connection, and I'm like, oh yeah, that makes sense. But yeah, Ira, you're enjoying both of them because you haven't seen these, right?
I've not seen either of these, and I am enjoying both of them.
Right, I've watched both. Like, this is, I guess, the theme of this backlog is early 2000s shows that left a deep impression on me.
Yeah,
that Eero missed during the era. So.
I mean, these are big names from that time period too.
Oh
yeah.
I mean, we can get into it later, but like Planets sort of gilds the lily of like a very specific group of Sunrise animators.
Yep. They gave him the blank check to make something like weird and crazy, like Hilgias.
Right, whatever the run that happened after that. Right.
Yep.
Okay. Well, I promise you, I will make sure there is time next time to dive more into this. But
one of these days,
we'll get there. I mean, we'll have even more things dropping off next time. We'll see. But okay. Well, I think that will do it then for this episode. It looks like Aqua had some technical issues and dropped off there at the last couple minutes. So thank you, Aqua. We'll catch you next time. But let's do our housekeeping. You can check us out at theglorioblog.com. You can follow us on Blue Sky at glorioblog. Check out our check out the new podcast, as we mentioned earlier, Blue Mondays, where Zig, Aqua, and so far every episode G, but I don't know if you're committed to that, have been rewatching Eureka 7. So we'll have a podcast episode every week. So Glorio Chat one week, and then Blue Mondays, similar to that we've done past shows, like of course Legend of the Glorio Heroes and our what did we actually call the Evangelion podcast? did we call it Evanglorio or something?
Remember.
Yeah, Genesis Evanglorio or something like that. I don't remember.
I think we might have.
The name was not really that important on that one, but yes. So check out Blue Mondays. You can subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, Podbean, Stitcher, and of course YouTube, where you can like, comment, subscribe, ring that notification bell. Send me some more anime recommendations. I'm having fun with this. So whatever else you got, send it my way, and maybe I'll check it out. Tell your friends, tell your enemies, and we'll catch you over next time.